Hello, welcome back to Reading Mama. My name is Heather, and today I'm going to give you a mid-month wrap-up. Excuse the beautiful ambiance in the background. I have kids who are very musical and need to practice all day long. Um, but I'm going to give you a mid-month wrap-up because I have 9 books that I've read so far. And for whatever reason, my brain is telling me, you didn't read enough, probably because I overloaded my TBR. But I actually read a lot, and I read a lot more physical books than I realized. And then I own some trophy books for what I actually read. So I'm going to start out with a book that I actually finished the very last day of February, but we're going to count it towards March because I'd already done my video. Beneath the Silent Stars by Miranda L. And I initially struggled with some of this. The epigraphs at the top, I'm not sure I fully understand what's going on there. They're just like all over the place. They remind me a lot of the epigraphs in Mark Lawrence's The Library That Wouldn't Burn, or whatever it is, series, because they feel very disconnected. And I know later on in the series they will make sense, but for right now they're like, what? Beneath the Silent Stars was a strange story with a huge, that last 100 pages, last 50 pages really just throw you for a loop. So you're following a young girl, and her name is, how do you say her name? I don't even remember. So Estrella is how I'm saying it. I felt like some of the named places in this were a little too close to each other, that it's just, I don't know, confusing. Because Estrella was also part of the country's name, like Estraden is yeah, it's called Estraden, and she's Estrella. So no comments there. Um, but I did enjoy the story overall. But she is basically in hiding. She has a magical healing power, and she is kind of in hiding and doing odd jobs. And you find out that because of her powers that she has from their gods, that she doesn't fully trust them because some bad things have happened in her life because of them. And she is being hunted by the king, who is hunting down all the magic wielders for whatever reason we don't know yet. And she comes across a bounty hunter. It's brooding and grumpy, and you see what this is going to go, right? And they end up being forced together because he decides not to turn her in. Sorry, that's a big spoiler. But they go on a journey, and things get chaotic, like over and over. There's some really good banter in this book. There are some things that it's like very cliche, but overall I enjoyed it a lot. Just as a story, I'm excited to read it, especially because that end gets me. And you know how if you've been following along, you know that I am a sucker for a series, and it's very rare that I do not finish a series, even if I don't like it. But I did really enjoy this overall. There were just a few places where you can tell it's a new writer, because they were a little more cliche and a little more simplified and predictable. But overall, it was a fun story. It was interesting. And so I'm encouraged and excited to read more of that. I think her next one's coming out this year. So that was a good book. And then let me find my right list. Then here's my trophy book to do A Wrinkle in Time. And I read this as part of my middle grade March reads. A Wrinkle in Time is a reread for me. It is also, I read it audio version. Don't judge me. But I really did love it. I love so many things in this book. I found so many great quotes. The more times I go through this, the more I find and the beauty and the wisdom of Madeline L'Engle. I'm just beyond comprehension. Like, it just really takes time to resonate. And I feel like I could pick up this book and just totally spend, like do a doctorate study on it. There's just so many great nuances, but broad strokes, you're following Meg and her brother Charles Wallace and their friend Calvin, who get wrapped up in a fantastical journey to find their Charles Wallace and Meg's father. And there are a lot of learning and growing and understanding of self and of connections and relationships through it. And it is just such a beautiful story, very fantastical and fun. And I think that kind of gets lost, especially for people who've never read it before or who have only seen the Disney movie, which is horrible compared to this. Okay, just so you know, it is not the same. But I just really did enjoy this, and so much so that I continued I've never continued the series. I've never read any more of Madeleine L'Engle. Now I'm like, I'm going to read her to zero. I need all of her books, nonfiction and fiction alike, because they're just so beautiful and moving. And if you go to my Instagram, I shared a whole bunch of quotes that I loved from it. But I started the next book, or I listened to the next book, A Wind in the Door, and I'll pop a picture up here if I can. And A Wind in the Door continues a story with Charles Wallace, Calvin, and Meg, and then it gets weird. It gets weird. It was very much Magic School Bus inside Arnold's body, because Calvin and Meg meet a creature who go inside Charles Wallace's body because Charles Wallace is not doing well, and it's really the fate of the entire universe is relying on this thing that is attacking Charles Wallace. And it sounds very physical, whereas this is actually very metaphysical, very psychological, and a lot going on in understanding self, understanding who you are, and loving others for who they are and through their flaws, and realizing that. And it's a beautiful picture of how Jesus loves us, even when we're flawed, and he can find his love, and his love will conquer all the wicked if we allow it. And so it is just a beautiful. So I'm excited to continue the thing. I'm looking at the back because it has the rest of the books on here. And I haven't yet, but I am hoping to finish this, read more of that series. Next, I listened to All We Thought We Knew, which I thought I was done with Vietnam adjacent books, but apparently not. I had this on my hold shelf for a long time with Libby, and it kept coming in at a time where I couldn't listen, so it kept getting pushed. All That We Thought We Knew should not have got pushed. It was a phenomenal read. And in it, you're following a young girl who has some issues, okay? She has struggled with all the things that are going on. This is taking place during during the Vietnam War, but then also during World War II. And so you follow these two timelines, and you follow three characters. And the main character, who's during Vietnam, her brother went off to the war. She's very much a flower child. Her brother died. She went off the rails, went and joined a hippie commune, tried to commit suicide. Now she's come home because her mom is very sick, and her mom is giving her these letters and journals and things that have happened in the past, because her mom is passing and wants her to know these things before she passes on. And very emotional, there's a lot going on, a lot of hurt feelings. There's a little bit of a romance there, but then the juxtaposition, the other stories during World War II all of this is taking place in Tennessee, and I forget the name of the fort. And a young woman has been recently widowed. Her husband died at Pearl Harbor. They'd only been married for 4 days, so she's grieving, but not too deeply, because she hadn't even got a chance to really know the man before she got married. And anyways, she goes to work at this fort. This fort has prisoners of war. There's a German man that you follow his story as well. He ends up there, and then you follow their story as she can see past the Euro-German, and not everybody there can. And so you see kind of the atrocities of what happened in concentration camps here in America, and also just the way that different people view those who came over, whether for whatever reason. And also, I think it's interesting is you see the way that soldiers are treated differently, and the author has such great respect for our soldiers and those who serve, and just in life in general. But it is a Christian book, and it has some great Christian themes without it being over the top. And the main character back in the Vietnam eras in the 60s is slowly coming to terms with her understanding of God and trusting in him. And so I really appreciated that. Next, I listened to Anya and the Dragon by, I think, Susan Pasternak. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I said the wrong name. I'll probably pop a picture up here. I don't know where I got this. I don't know why it was on my Libby list. I don't know anything about it, but I listened to it anyways, and it was weird. And I loved it. So Anya and the Dragon follows a young girl in what we today would call Ukraine, but in that time period is part of Russia. And she is part of a Jewish family. And they are not being treated well, and they're about to get ousted out of their house, and she's looking for a way to help raise money so that they can pay the taxes so that they don't leave. Along the lines, you learn a lot of Jewish folklore and magic, mysticism that goes on in. So maybe not mysticism, anyways, just their magic and folklore. So you have all these different magical creatures and things like that, and then you have these people coming who are looking for the czar to hunt dragons, and so she's going to help hunt down the dragon, earn some extra money, and lo and behold, she befriends the dragon. There's another young man in the story who is her friend, who is a water wielder, and just there's all kinds of little nuances. It was just fun and sweet, but there are things like kobolds and house over there, house gnomes. I don't remember. There were a lot of magical creatures in here. Some that I was not familiar with. And they have some cute interactions. It was very sweet, very innocent. There is a guy who tries to hurt the children. So, I mean, not totally sweet and innocent. There is a villain. He is trying to kill the dragon. He is attacking the children. So keep that in mind if you're going to read this with children. But I really loved it. It was a lot of fun. So go check out Anya and the Dragon. And the audiobook was phenomenal. And next, I read another middle grade book. And this I picked up for somebody had said it was a dystopian novel for middle grade. And I was like, all right, I can get behind that. I love dystopian novels. No, just no. Also, this particular author, I love. We have read all of her picture books. She makes some phenomenal biographical picture books. And I probably recommended on here before, but she has a great Joan of Arc. She has, why can I only think of Joan of Arc? She has several, though. And she has Shakespeare. But Diane Stanley has some phenomenal biographical picture books. This, I didn't enjoy. Let's just put it that way. So, Saving Sky, I also would not say is dystopian. So this is taking it in the near future, and Sky, you open up and Sky is the young girl. She's middle school age, and she lives with her parents and her little sister on a ranch out in the middle. I think they're in New Mexico. Is that the land of enchantment? And they live out there. They're very, very hippie, and there's a lot of hippie vibes. And a lot of it just grated upon my Christian senses, but some of it, I just talked about a magical book with crazy animals. So, I could look past cultural differences and things I disagree with and don't believe in. There was just a lot. And I wouldn't give this to a middle schooler who isn't very strong in their faith, because they would get very confused by some of the earth worship stuff that's in here. Also, she's not a great character. She's not very strong. She doesn't really overcome her weaknesses or anything. I don't feel like there's a lot of growth of character for her. She ends up going to school, and when she's there, she is obviously the outcast because her family's very different. Well, you find out that there's these attacks by people who do terror. I'm trying not to get pinged on here. But then they lose their gas lines and their electricity, and it's very plausible things happening in the possible near future. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But the reactions were weird. They weren't right. And then people who are of different color are being hunted down and put into holding, regardless of what their connections are or any due process or anything. This is making a statement. That's all this is doing. This is making a statement and trying to get other kids to believe all the things that she says here, without regard to any facts, without regard to any logic, without any plausibility. The characters are flat. The storyline is forced thriller kind of things. It just was bad. It was bad writing. It was bad everything. I just didn't enjoy it. So that's all I'm going to say about it. So that's going back to the library. Luckily, I did not buy that one. And next, I listened to Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, and oh my goodness, this is wonderful. I'm in the middle of the second book, actually. So the Prison Healer is following a young girl who is we're in a fantastical kingdom, and she's a teenager. She has been trapped inside Zalandorf prison for about 10 years, and she is the healer there. Her father used to be a healer, and now she's the healer, and her job is to take inventory, mark them with a Z as they come in, and then she cares for them as best she can. And through it, you learn that there's a rebel cause. One of the rebel leaders gets into the prison, and she's forced with keeping them alive. The main character, Kiva, have some connections to the rebels, but we're not sure how clear or what those are exactly. And then a young man comes into the prison who they make connections, and she's not sure about that because she's always trying to keep her distance to keep her safe. And there are just so many phenomenal aspects of this book. I couldn't possibly go into all of them. I really would encourage you to read it. It's so far been clean. Um, I will say, so they are clean and no spice or anything like that, but there are some references to things that happen to women in prisons that might, if you're not careful. So, keep that in mind if you're not somebody who hasn't introduced that to like a teenager. I'm just thinking of my teens because I see this being recommended for teens a lot. And some of my teens don't have all that knowledge just yet. Anyways, but as a grown-up, I'm loving it. I love the banter. I love the characters, very complex. That the ending, phenomenal. Yeah, that there's a reason I have book 2 already loaded up on my Libby. And yes, it's just really good storyline. And through it, she is trying to save the rebel leader who comes in and is charged with, she's going to be executed. And in order to save her, she does like, it's like trial by ordeal, where she has to withstand 4 different trials. And that's the primary portion of the last half of the book, is you're following Kiva as she tries to survive these ordeals and how she goes about doing that. And all of the things that she does to prepare, plus all the things that are going on at the same time, because there's also a plague in the prison. So there's a lot going on. But it is very enjoyable. I really love it. I'm in book 2 and I'm excited because I can hopefully see where it's going, but it's very enjoyable. And then let's see here. What did I do next? I read my middle grade, The Outsider, a Ruth retelling by Katie Morgan. And this was phenomenal middle grade. I absolutely highly recommend this. I'm going to buy all of Katie Morgan's other books for my kids because I really love this. It does a sweet job of telling the story of Ruth and imagining if you were there, if you were Ruth, if you were Naomi. I mean, it follows Ruth mostly, and a little bit Boaz. And you go through her story from Moab all the way back to Israel, about life, what she would be doing if she was gleaning, as she was making connections, kind of what the reception was if they came back. Obviously, we're taking 4 chapters of the Bible and adding stuff to it. Okay, we're not adding to the Bible, but we're reimagining what life would have been like if you were there. What was it really like for Ruth? And I think this is really good for kids because it helps put them into the Bible stories and realize that they were real stories. Also, I have a daughter whose middle name is Ruth, so she has always loved the Book of Ruth, and so I'm got this for her for school for next year for a fun read, and I highly recommend it. Really loved it. Very sweet, very innocent, nothing untoward, as you would expect with a middle grade Christian book. It does have at the back, one of the things I thought was nice is it has like notes for every chapter. And so like you can get further information about certain things. So like sometimes it'll tell you, oh, here's why why Boaz's family would leave the barley for gleaning. And then like, what does Moabite mean? What do these different things mean? I also really appreciated the look into the Moabite culture a little bit there at the beginning. And then it has book club discussions if that's your jam. And so I really, really enjoyed this. She has one. I know she has one. What is it called? It is called The Song of a Warrior, Saul and David, a retelling. And then she also has a Christmas one. I think it's like The Promise and the Light. So definitely recommend that. And then what did I do? Then I did an ebook for Dust by Kara Swanson. I did not expect to like this much. So Dust is a Peter Pan YA retelling. And it started out slow and it took me a while to get into it. And then once I did, I could not stop. It was so beautiful and heartbreaking. Peter Pan is not like my favorite fairy tale, but this does like an amazing job. So in it, you open up with Claire, who is struggling. She is struggling emotionally, mentally, physically. She has some kind of skin condition. She doesn't understand why it can cause suffering to others. She's locked herself away. Her brother is missing. Nobody believes that anything's wrong with him missing. She thinks he's been kidnapped. And she has like no connections to people because she has distanced herself after years of poor foster care and of this skin condition and the problems that ensued. This has so many beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things in this story as she goes and continues to search for her brother Connor. And I will tell you, it does have a lot of heavy content because it talks about things like taking one's life, talks about things about self-harm. It is very heavy. It is very heavy, but it is so beautiful because there's just so much encouragement over and over and over to let the light shine in the darkness, to search for the light, to keep. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. She does end up going, spoiler right here, she does end up going to London to locate her brother, and there she meets Peter, who we all know because we get Peter's perspective. Peter Pan has been trapped in the Earth world because something is wrong with Neverland, and she gets roped into the whole situation without knowing all the players. So very exciting, great ending, beautiful, beautiful testimony of overcoming those hard times and depression. And yeah, it was very good. And then I actually did the audiobook for this. Oh, sorry. I did Healer's Apprentice by Melanie Dickerson, and I really love Melanie Dickerson's, but not all of her audiobook readers are the same, okay? This audiobook reader did a phenomenal job, and I want to say her name was Jude something. But I really love this. This is the beginning of a series with the Hoggenheim that take place in Hoggenheim. I don't even know if the name of the series. You can read them. I think they're all technically standalones, but they're slightly connected because the Mulan one I read last month is part like the end of the series. Anyways, so in this we're following Rose, who is an apprentice healer, and she works at the castle with the regular healer, and she meets the Duke and the Duke's sons, and she gets some connections, and this is a love story gone awry. The oldest is betrothed, so she doesn't want to fall in love with him, but he's the kind one. He's the one that notices her, who does right things. The second Duke's son is more of a cad and a rogue, and he just, yeah, things happen. It's very heavy with Christian themes, and I really appreciate that for someone who they're trying to honor what God says, and they're very much careful about propriety and things like that. Which, if you're reading a YA romance novel, I want my kids to know that. Okay, I want. There's a lot going on. There's also a wicked, evil villain on the loose, in the story. Her mom's trying to marry her off to the highest bidder. A lot going on in this book, and it comes around really well. For the story, it's very predictable if you've read a lot of YA romance in medieval times. But yeah, it was enjoyable, and I really did like it. Like I said, the audiobook was phenomenal. This one was good. I'll keep going and read book 2 because I really enjoyed it. And then last but not least, I have the Dreamkeeper Saga, and this is a trophy book because I did this on audio as well. So the book is actually called The Dragon in the Stone, and I'm reading this as part of my perfect pairings because I figured why not do a middle grade dragon book and then do an adult dragon book. They're going to be vastly different. I'm just going to tell you right now because this was so sweet. This was so sweet. In it, we're following 12-year-old Lily, who has lost her father. You see a theme here. And she gets wrapped into a magical world where she finds out her father was some special keeper. She goes on an adventure with this dragon to this mythical kingdom where they are being ravaged by some villains, and Lily has a part to play. And I know this is a series and it keeps going. I don't know that I loved it enough to keep going with the series. It was fun. It was cute. I wasn't drawn into the world so much, and the same can be said about my teenager. She didn't just love it. She was like, yeah, it was good. It was kind of weird. And I know other people really, really love this series. Very clean, very innocent. There are villains in it, obviously, shades and shadows and things like that are evil. I believe, yeah, it's Crossway, so it's a Christian fantasy book, and it's fun. Oh, the dragon can talk. He's the one who's helped guide her. She has a misfit friend who comes along for the journey, and yeah, there's a lot that goes on as she learns that she can, because basically in this world they're dream keepers because she thinks that she has dream can come alive in this world, but she also finds out she's an artisan, so she can create things, and so she has some dream characters come along. She has some things that she creates as she goes on this journey to get to the palace to find out what is going on, then finds out another quest, goes on a second quest to solve a problem that has arisen. And then there are villains and traitors and all kinds of, all the things you would expect in a quest heavy fictional book. But for a middle grade read, I think it was really fun, good read. If you're doing middle grade March, I don't know that it hits any of their prompts other than it's a middle grade book, but it was a lot of fun. So that is my March books, and this is already way longer than it should be. Oh my goodness, that was 9 books so far this month, and hopefully I will have more. You will notice that a lot of the books I put on my TBR for my priority level books are not even ones I finished. I've been trying to do that because I am very much a procrastinator, I guess. I don't know. But if I find a book that I want to read, I'll read it at the beginning of the month. And then the ones that I like, you need to read this by the end of the month because I said so arbitrarily, I try to save those for the last half. So I haven't done my Journey Through Time or my Read Your Bookshelf Challenge or what are my other ones that I do? I have done my Perfect Pairs. There's just a few that I haven't done yet. I've done probably half of middle grade March. And I'm just saving those for when I get to my next half of the month because it'll help me narrow it down because I had so many books on this and it's right now I'm like, oh no, which do I pick? And so by narrowing it down, I can kind of see where my priorities are. So one of them is I want to read this from book. So on the cover, yeah, I'm cheating. It says that. I've read the first chapter, not getting into it quite as much as I would love to. I don't know. Max and the House of Spies, I still have for the buddy read. I don't know if I'm going to read it, y'all. It's not looking so good. I have Son of Charlemagne, which I have to read because it's a pre-read for school. And I read the first half of the first chapter and I really did enjoy it. Other fantasy worlds have been calling me. So I need to just do that. And my other Ruth retellings, I really do want to pick those up. I just haven't yet. I think I'm going to start with Bonnebriars because I know that that is a dark fantasy retelling. So maybe that will get me mix my fantasy with my things I need to do. And then I feel like there's a few others. Count of Monte Cristo. I'm making some good progress, not like a ton, but it's progress. I really am enjoying it. It's a chunky book, y'all. And it's just daunting. I feel like I'm like my kids now. It's so thick, I can't read it. And I'm doing it on audio so far because somebody recommended that. And so I'm enjoying that for Count of Monte Cristo. I also have another chunky book that I'm working on. And I'm only working on one of the novellas in here. And so I'm doing what is it called? The Mistborn Secret History. And so I think I have like 100 pages left. And I should just read it. But it's stressing me out because Hero of the Ages really did some damage to me. So going back into the Mistborn world has been a bit difficult. But that's what's going on. So we'll see how much I get done for the rest of the month. Thank you for joining me. If you have some books that you have enjoyed so far this month, drop them below. I probably will end up adding them to my TBR, which is already exploding. But I love talking books. Thank you so much for joining me and have a blessed day.